Hi, and welcome to What's the Worst That Could Happen. I'm Abby Whitaker, your host, and today I have Tasmyn Sutton on the potty, otherwise known as Taz. Taz, I'd love you to introduce yourself and your businesses.
So, as Abby said, my name is Tasmyn, but everyone always just calls me Taz. I am coached by Taz, so I am a nutritionist and online coach, and I also co-own a strength and conditioning facility in Moffat Beach.
Amazing. Cool. So can you tell us a little bit more about your journey to get where you are? So what kind of, where did you start and how are we here?
Yeah, okay. So, long time ago now, but at 2016, I was studying paramedics, actually. That was where my journey began. Thought I wanted to be a paramedic. And I was just training at a local gym on the sunny coast. I was just there a lot. And then the owner approached me and asked me if I wanted to work in sales for the gym, which I think it was just because I don't know, chatted to all the members and I was super friendly and I was there all the time. And I was like, yeah, cool. That sounds fun. So I started in sales and then I was with that company for 6 years and I eventually grew into a manager role. And then while I was doing that, I started studying my PT course. So then I would manage the gym and then before my shifts at like 7 a.m, I would train clients. And then when I would finish at 7 p.m, I would train clients as well. And I think I was charging like $20, something ridiculous. And then from there, I grew a client base and I would slowly drop back on my shifts at the gym. And eventually I went to an independent facility in Woolrana and then grew there again. And I moved over to O2 Performance. And while I was at O2, that's when I started my university degree. So I went back to uni and I studied nutrition because at this point in my career, I realized that my passion and I feel like nutrition really contributes massively to client success. So studied that for 4 years and then I moved over to opening Tenacity.
Amazing. Yeah. Actually interesting. Our journeys in some way are similar. I also started behind the desk at a gym in sales and admin. And then, I guess just like a different pathway, but
you kind of grow. Yeah. And I feel like most people do start behind the desk and then they realize, oh, it actually looks kind of fun out on the gym floor, or maybe I'm more people facing if I'm out on the gym floor. And I think that naturally you progress out there that way. But I think for anyone starting as a PT and studying, if you can land a role at a desk or working in sales at a gym, it's a perfect way to segue into a full-time PT because it's tough. Like I think if you graduate your PT course and you have no business skills, because they don't teach you that, or you don't really have as many people skills, maybe you're fresh out of high school, it teaches you all those foundations and relationship and rapport building for then becoming a good coach, because relationships with your clients are just as important as the actual training itself.
Yeah, totally. And I think also as a business owner, I would say that, people who come into my world who doing that stuff and are good at that stuff have more opportunities to move into like teaching roles or teach across the studios, etc., rather than someone who's just like cold calling and coming in fresh. And on the other side of that as well, it's quite hard to find someone who can have a basic understanding of business, admin, sales, marketing, as well as be a great coach as well. So I think when you lay the foundations there while you're completing your study and then edge over, it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, because they do need to bring that into PT courses because, you don't know the basics about running a business, how to market yourself because you are your business. You don't know how to do, tax or accounting. Like there's so many things that you just get thrown into the deep end and trying to find clients that it can be a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, being a trainer full time, I know in the Pilates industry, like being a Pilates instructor full time is not sustainable long term. So you kind of have to find other ways as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I get that. I think that maybe like the peak of my PT career, I'd be doing like 10 or 12 sessions face to face every single day,
Oh my gosh.
5 or 6 days a week. And I would get home and have no words left for anyone else. And I think you start to dilute the quality of your session as well. Like by the time you get to your 10th or 12th session that day, you're not giving the quality that you gave the 7 a.m. session. I mean, you might try your absolute best, but in my mind, you're starting to get tired and pretty fatigued and losing some reps.
Yeah, totally. And I think when you're in that structure, that's like you're paying rent at a gym and you're sort of just trying to make ends meet. You kind of have to do a lot of sessions per day.
Totally. Yeah. Some rents are crazy. Some are pretty good for what you get. Like, shout out to O2. They're pretty good for anyone on the coast who's a PT.
We love O2. We love O2.
They're fantastic and they look after you. But yeah, and also it's that fact of like, you know, you're getting offered X amount per hour, like your service is per hour. And even though you feel like you can't take on any more clients, if someone's like, I'm going to pay you $100+ for this hour, you're like, oh,
yeah,
what's one more?
Yeah.
So,
but it's still restricting yourself to a per hour.
Yeah.
Like there's a ceiling.
Exactly. Yeah.
So was that part of your decision making when you decided to open up your own facility? Or can you talk us through that like process?
Yeah. So opening my own facility, I think, is something that everyone in that world strives for. I think from day dot of managing a gym, I knew that at some point I wanted to try owning a facility, and then the opportunity presented itself. Josh was working out of another facility and I was working from the other, but we were bouncing our clients in between each other, both paying rent to separate facilities, which, you know, really does add up. So we were like, oh, maybe like it's now or never. So let's just jump in head first. And we started looking at industrial sheds on the sunny coast, and then we found one that we absolutely love. And there's 4 businesses that run out of our shed. So finding the shed that suited us was quite difficult because we needed dual access. We needed an office upstairs that was air conditioned, and we needed X amount of floor space. And then other things you have to think about is parking. Like, where's all the clients going to park? So we were quite limited, but we found the shed that we really wanted in Moffs, which is a cute little community as well. We're happy to be down there. And we just, took the jump. And now we're almost a year in. I think our anniversary is in May.
So good. Feels like you've had it longer than
I know it does.
May. I'm like, are you sure we're not 2 years?
No, I feel like it aged me like 5 years opening that place.
But coming to think of it, summer, I only remember one summer, and that was the summer.
Yeah,
or
and you were pregnant as well,
Yeah.
so that makes things tough. But Elise came in yesterday for her first session, now that we're prepping her for the wedding. And I said to her, lucky you're used to the hot rooms at Core Plus because you're about to do a hot gym.
So funny. So with that being said, so you just mentioned Elise and prepping for weddings. So I've noticed that you specialise, you tend to attract and specialise in some areas. What would they be?
Yeah, so I definitely tend to attract and specialise in recomposition. So females who want to change their shape, or potentially they want to lose weight, they want to gain weight, but definitely in female and women's health. And naturally or organically in the last couple of years, maybe even since you kind of got married, my audience has just really moved towards weddings. And, you know, last October, I think I had 6 girls getting married. I have one getting married next week. I had one getting married last week. And it's actually nothing that I even really thought I would ever do is wedding preps. I was never the girl who grew up and wanted to have the big flashy wedding, so weddings isn't something really in my world. But yeah, I just seem to have attracted that group of women, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a very rewarding and niche space.
Yeah. So in terms of recomposition, I've never heard that word before, but I think I understand what it is. Can you talk us through a little bit like what that means and why you've ended up specialising in there, and like where you kind of stand in terms of like how you approach your clientele for a sustainable recomposition, body recomposition, is that right?
Yeah, so recomposition, I suppose, is like if you don't like the shape or how you look in your figure, just losing weight probably isn't going to change that, right? So if we want to recomposition, it's about growing muscle and changing the actual physical shape of our body. So maybe that's like some girls don't have any glutes, or they feel like they're that up and down surfboard shape. So maybe we want to, increase our lats or improve our shoulders and then grow our glutes and our quads and our hammies so that we start to get that more like pear looking shape. Might make them feel more feminine, things like that. But losing weight alone isn't going to do that. And I also don't believe any other sport besides bodybuilding is going to achieve that either, because we need structure, we need consistency, we need progressive overload, we need that tailored program to hit the areas that we're trying to target or change the things that we don't like about ourselves. So I suppose my clients come to me, they tell me the areas that they're feeling insecure about or what they want to focus on, and then we tailor their program and their nutrition, most importantly, to make sure that we achieve that. And the same goes for a wedding. Yeah. It's a backwards process. It's like, this is the date I get married, and then I'm like, okay, well, we have 6 months. What does that then look like weekly to hit 6 months, rather than, oh, I want to lose weight for my wedding in 6 months. It's like, okay, but how much, when, what does that look like each week? Is there a build phase because you don't like your body shape right now? Or is it we just start to cut down to get you to that wedding date? So yeah, everything's very individualized.
Yeah, very tailored. I think it's really great. And I think that I've obviously watched you and I've been one of your clients and will return once the baby's out. But I think I've seen you build a really strong community and a really sustainable clientele base. And obviously you're attracting people who, yes, maybe want to lose weight, because it just seems to be the thing that people want to do, but you're able to steer them away from
just being skinny.
Yeah,
totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation this morning with one of my clients, because she's lost 2 kilos in 4 weeks. So fantastic, right? I don't ever really want my female clients to lose more than 500 grams a week. So we actually bang on. But she sent me a message being like, oh, but if I had done all those things and I hadn't have had the cycle in last week, then I probably would have lost more than 2 kilos. She's like, I'm happy, but I probably could have done more. And I was like, but this is real life, right?
Yeah.
Like, celebrate the 2 kilos, because A, we're bang on target, and you had all those little things on the side and you lived a normal life, and we've still achieved the goal.
Yeah. And also there's always going to be things coming up. Like, granted, there's not going to be a cyclone every month, but there's always going to be something come up. And it's like the way that you can create, again, I say sustainable, like a sustainable lifestyle to sustain that.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm not going to sit inside like a hermit every day just to stay 5 kilos lighter, are we? So we have to learn how to be in the real world and manage all of those things and still achieve our goals.
Yeah. So what do you think are your like biggest values when it comes to training people, weight loss, nutrition, all of that? Like, what do you what would you say that you are really pushing for with your clients?
Sustainability is a big one. I never want to have clients come to me and I do everything for them so they leave with absolutely no education beyond me. Like, I want you to come to me and I want you to learn so that when I'm no longer your coach, you can continue this without me. So that's one of my massive things. Sustainability, definitely, like learning that this is a long-term thing. It's not a quick fix. I'm not the coach who's going to get you to drop 10 kilos and you only eat chicken and zucchini for the next 6 weeks. Like, that's just not me. And I do have my boundaries of how far I will push you, because I think that, keeping a client safe is also super important, right? Like, I'm not going to have a client come to me and I put you on 1,000 calories. And yes, you might post a progress pic in 6 weeks and you look absolutely insane, but morally, I don't feel okay about doing that to get you there. Yeah. So I'm going to go slow and steady and make sure that we're health centered. And just make sure that when you leave me at the end of the day, we don't revert back to how you were prior to seeing me. Yeah,
I love that. I think that that's really good. And it's just like a testimony to the way you built your clientele, because you obviously have clientele that you've had from the start.
Yeah, pretty much.
You still have them now. They've followed you from place to place.
Yeah, I think I have had one who sees me every Tuesday at 4:30. Jackie, I had it yesterday, and I think it's like 7 or 8 years, and she's not wavered from Tuesday at 4:30.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I had someone
You're like,
ask
can't
me.
go to holiday, can't count holidays on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Or I have clients ask me like, oh, do you have Tuesday afternoons, maybe after school drop off? And I'm like, nah, that one hasn't been free for 8 years. You can't have that one.
I love it. So good.
Yeah.
So how was your transition from having your clients at O2 to the business, and how does the business work? Because you mentioned you've got Josh in the business and you've got you in the business. You've got 4 businesses running out of that space, but that particular business is just the 2 of you.
Tenacity, yes.
Yep, Tenacity. How exactly did you transition your clients, and how does that space operate separately and then together?
Yeah, so fortunately, I have learnt from my mistakes in the past. So I once moved from a facility where I was working solely by myself, and I moved to a company where we combined our classes and we combined our memberships, and I made a cut of that membership. But I lost control of programming, of growth to some degree, control over the clientele. It no longer really felt like my clients. It was more like I was working for the facility, which was great at the time. And, you know, there are periods where you need to do that because you learn and you upskill because you're getting the programming and stuff from someone who might know more than you. But when we moved to Tenacity, I didn't want to make that same mistake. So essentially we have Tenacity, which is the space. And I would say the way that it works is Josh and I work for it. Yeah. So it pays us a wage and the members are Tenacity.
Yeah.
And then we also have our separate companies. So I still run Coach by Taz out of there, and Josh still has JCM.
Yeah.
So if anyone comes through to me through nutrition or they're online and all that sort of stuff, that still runs through my separate company. Josh still has his own because he programs for a lot of athletes and CrossFit and, you know, that other world that is the opposite to me. And then we have Tenacity, which is essentially all the classes. So if you come to Tenacity, you get Josh and I and Grace, our employee, and we work for the company.
Okay, so the way that you work it is you've got your separate companies in there. Is like that all separate, like in terms of like finance and stuff? So you've got your own income stream there through Coach by Taz, all that like individual stuff you do, your small group classes, your nutrition, and then Josh does his like one-on-ones, etc. And then you do joint classes where people have a membership they can go to.
So Tenacity has a membership. My small group classes are actually through Tenacity. It's all on the same timetable. We did that so that there's diversity, right? So if someone's paying for a membership at Tenacity, they can jump and train with me. They can train with Josh. They can train with Grace. It's not like you can come to Tenacity, but you can't go to Taz's small group classes because that's a separate company. So they are free to do whatever they like in the space and find who works for them, right? It's just the nutrition and the one-on-ones that we really run
separately. Yeah, that makes total sense. And gives us like a great little like boundary in terms of like how it works.
Yeah, and still having our own income streams, which I think is, you know, super important because, you know, if you ever decide that you want to coach separately or you want to sell the business, it's not as complicated for the other person because they've still got their own their own side thing going on. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so what are some of your biggest learnings, challenges, fuck ups that you've had throughout your career, like related to business? What have you really like learnt?
I've learned a few hard lessons. Very young in my career, I signed a contract with a commercial gym, and essentially I didn't align with the business owner that took over the company, and I wanted out of that facility, and I had signed a contract so they made me pay out every week that I didn't want to be there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think when you're like 21? I might have been 21. Like that's a lump sum of money, right? To walk away from a company. But I'm also like, I don't want to be here every day and I don't want to be uncomfortable. And when I don't align with you. So that was one big error
Yeah.
that I made, and a big lesson to learn quite young.
Yeah.
But it did also teach me to read over my contracts. Because a lot of people don't realize with PT contracts is you have non-competes. So like you're not allowed, one of the clauses in that contract was I wasn't allowed to work within 4 kilometers of that facility. And when you build up a clientele that's face to face, that matters.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to drive. Well, actually they do now.
Yeah.
But early days, they're not going to drive more than 20 minutes to come see you.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I moved to a facility that was like 4.2 kilometers from the non-compete.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, those little things I think about, like really reading your fine print and understanding that I suppose not all of the big company owners are actually looking after you. You know, they have multiple facilities for a reason.
Yeah.
That's another lesson that I learnt. Tax and accounting. Stay on top of that.
Make sure you do it.
Make sure you put tax aside. That adds up quickly as well. And tax and accounting is still something that I think overwhelms me, right? Like, just make sure you have a good accountant from the start.
Yeah.
We're filming in Fenwick today. So just make sure that you've got someone there supporting you from the start, especially when you're trading on an ABN and you are self-employed. Because there are things like super, how much you should be putting away weekly. When you hit GST and adding that on top of your tax bill already, that you just don't know about until you get there, or you get hit with a massive tax bill.
Yeah.
And that goes for any industry. Like I know my brother had the same thing. You know, we're both self-employed, which I think stems from my dad was self-employed, right? So we just seen that lifestyle and we both went, you know, that's it. And he did the same thing in his first year of business. It's just something that if you're not taught, you're unaware of. Another lesson was...
I wanna jump in here because one thing I truly believe is that it's great. It's really good to have a good accountant and one that you can trust, but also one that will explain things to you, because even though it is overwhelming, I think that it's important to have a basic understanding of what's going on as well within your business. I've been involved with a business who it was like husband and wife, and he took care of all the finances, and then when they separated, she realized that he hadn't really been keeping the books up to date, and like there's all this big mess. And essentially, because she was the director of the company, she actually had the full responsibility over fixing all that, fixing staff pays, backtracking all this stuff. And I think that was something that happened like way before I was in business that I saw, and I was like, it's actually really important to know
what's going on,
even if it's very basic, like being clear with what is tax deductible in your business, being clear with like what the percentage of tax is going to be, and maybe like adding a little bit on top and putting that away, being understanding, and this is not my strong point, by the way.
No, neither.
You know, GST, all those kinds of things, like understanding what that percentage is, because sometimes, especially when you're young, you get these lump sums of money and you're like, fuck yeah,
this is all mine.
And you don't realize that actually, no, like 35% of that needs to go to all these like other bills. And then you come to the end of the year and you feel like a bit of an idiot. And then on top of that, you've got the extra stress of having to
pay backwards a tax bill.
Totally.
Exactly. And you think maybe week by week it's not a lot, but add it up over 12 months and there's your big hefty bill that you're now paying off. And then you get your next one.
And then you also maybe made the mistake of buying like a brand new car on finance and like this and that. And all of a sudden you're like literally in debt.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like, I mean, if you have a good accountant, you can ask them about things like how you get a business car and what loan, you know, even opening Tenacity. Like I had to come to Fenwick and be like, okay, this is the loans that are available for, you know, leasing equipment and stuff like that. Which one's going to best suit me for how I'm set up as a sole trader or as Tenacity as the partnership, and just how to pay that backwards or how to write it off against this year's bill. So all those little things definitely do matter.
Yeah, totally. Okay, continue.
My
other
lessons.
Oh,
okay. So I think my third lesson was I was very naive. in opening a facility. I feel like I thought it was like renting a house, right? Like I thought you would look at the facility, you'd go for the lease, you'd look around, be like, yeah, this is cool, and then you would move in like a house.
Yeah.
No, that's not how commercial real estate works, which you would know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lawyers involved. There's a lot of contracts. There's a lot of legalities. And there's a huge outlay of financials before you even open the door. So that was probably my third lesson, was like going into actually having a commercial lease and what's actually involved in that, because it's not simple, and it does get expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than you would think. And then on top of that, it's like, say when you think about like renting a house, it's like you rent a house, you don't change anything in it because it's not your house. But when you do commercial, you also have to think about a fit out. Then there's those clauses of like what it needs to look like when you leave.
Yeah.
So it's not just, it's a lot more complicated.
Yeah. And then like they want to know what the floor's made of and window insurance.
Company insurance, commercial insurance. Yeah. It's a lot more responsibility than renting at a gym or something. And I think that sometimes, or in my businesses, I know certainly I've heard like backhanded comments like, what, like why are their memberships so expensive, or we figured out how much like your reformers cost and how much your instructors are, like it must be making a lot of money. And it's like, well, hang on, we've got insurance here, we've got like repairs and maintenance, we've got things like air cons, all of that sort of like stuff, we've got expensive equipment that needs repairing and maintaining and replacing, and
they forget about the overheads, right?
And then you've also got the responsibility of people's health and safety, especially in like a facility when you're moving. Personal insurances, employees, there's so much that comes with it.
Employee insurance, your insurance, your client's insurance, the facility's insurance. Like it's not under one umbrella. It's like, no, everyone needs their own. And then everyone in our facility needed their own insurance. So like, Todd, Mosey, Josh, me. Then we also needed our own lawyer. So we all had to have our own lawyer to go into this lease. And I'm like, surely we can just have one that writes the lease. But they're like, no, because if something goes wrong, I can't represent all four of you. So they're lessons that I learnt, going into a big space and having a commercial lease.
And how did you just push through? How did you overcome it? I only ask because I was there and I remember.
I was going to have an absolute meltdown. I was so stressed.
She was so naive. She was like, oh yeah, I think we're just going to go get it done over the weekend. We'll be open on Monday. And I was like,
oh. 2 months later, door finally comes up. I remember like it was to like the hour or something that we put our signs up out the front, and it was like, oh, is this going to pass? Like, should we be putting a sign up out the front? And we had a pretty tough lawyer on the other end of going into our lease. Oh, really? So that was something that we had to battle on the other end. But we got there in the end. And when we actually finally met our owner of the facility, he's wonderful. So it all went full circle in the end. But yes, during it, no, I get overwhelmed and I'm not the greatest under stress. I like want to do that whole dig my head in the sand thing. But fortunately, I feel like Josh thrives under pressure. And he really pulled through. I feel like I was making him make all the phone calls and he's like, it's okay. It's going to be fine. So if you have someone supporting you on the other end, that's great. If you can go into business with someone like, you in a lease or something like that, where you have that person you can bounce off. And maybe I was greater at setting up all the back end stuff, like making sure the memberships are up, making sure, our lawyers have written our liability waivers and all that sort of stuff. And then if Josh could carry the team on the actual getting into the facility front and dealing with the lawyers, then it comes together.
It worked well. And I think that that's also where potentially, like, if you don't have that person, like that partner or that person who can kind of help you do that, I think that that's where like mentor can really come in.
Yeah, totally.
Because, yeah, I think that there's so many things that can happen at the start before you even
get in there,
take off. And you don't want, like, you want to make sure that you do it right and not be discouraged, because sometimes, well, I found in the Pilates studio space, like, that launch of your space is so important. And it's really hard to build up clientele if that kind of is just like not a big deal.
I
get you don't have the momentum there. So
yeah, I feel like maybe that was a little bit different for us because we had
you already had your clientele.
We had established businesses, right? So it was actually more just about changing location. It wasn't about really creating memberships from, you know, if we had moved to the Gold Coast and opened a gym, it would have been an entirely different process. Yeah. But that's not to say that we're not still building that up now. We actually haven't done any marketing. I just bought a flag the other day.
A flag? What do you mean?
Like a street flag.
A street flag. We're going old school. I love it.
Well, you know, you want to know where we are. Yeah. But we've just really relied on word of mouth. And I have done that for Coach by Taz as well. Yeah. Like, I've got Instagram and I use my Instagram, but my referrals come from, you know, other clients. And that's really how our gym's grown as well. And we have the most beautiful community because everyone is like-minded. We haven't just had, you know, someone who saw our Facebook ad or, So, we just have cultivated a really cool.
Yeah, I think that that's so beautiful and, like, again, such a testament to who you guys both are as people, because referrals are the strongest method of clientele. Yeah. Because obviously, like, someone's like backs you enough to like put their name on the line to refer you. Yep. And to run your business completely on that.
On raving fans, right?
On raving fans is really admirable. And, like, obviously over the years you've created that. Yeah. Both created that separately and then come together in a way. Did you find, like, with your clientele, did you have much of a drop off when you moved?
I had one client stay.
What do you mean?
O2.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. So you had one person
decide to not come over. Everyone else followed. Yeah. And we have lost a couple of people since opening Tenacity. Majority of them were... They moved, pregnant, went back to America, like things that are uncontrollable. And we did have some people who, you know, moved to another gym opened in Aura. So, you know, we had like some members go over there. But we're like, well, if you didn't want to be here, like, you know, maybe that is your community. Yeah, totally. You know, you weren't meant to stay with us. Yeah. And you just have to be at peace with that. You can't save everyone.
Yeah, totally. And you guys really know everyone personally, like you're going... You know, not everyone, but like, I mean, you're going to people's like baby showers, birthdays. And,
no, I actually think we know everyone. Yeah. Quite well.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what creates like such a strong community. And I've spoken about this on some of my other podcasts, but I think that community, the word community right now is like
trending.
Yeah.
It's quite hot. Yeah.
And I think like a lot of these like bigger franchises and things. And I mean, I'm not trying to like diss franchises. But I think like a lot of places are like, yeah, community, it's one of our values. And it's like, but you don't even know.
You don't know my name when I walk in the door. Exactly. Unless my little fob flashes up on your computer screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like there's someone different there all the time. And like your staff are like turning over like hotcakes. It's like, you know, that's not really community when you're not actually, I always remember there's like, it's like you're not doing life together. And that's like sounds really intimate, but like, you know, you have like, say I have friends and like maybe I catch up for a coffee or whatever, and you have a very like shallow conversation. But then you have your community of people who you call and be like, this fucking happened. Yeah. And you're crying or you go for coffee and you're like, okay, tell me like everything. Like, you know, and I think that that's really where a sustainable business comes from, in my personal opinion, in the fitness space, is actually having that community, because that becomes a safe place for people. And working out and like body image and weight loss and all of that is a very intimate thing for people.
Totally.
And
the highlight of their day for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, it's like them giving back to themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that, we see in Australia, we have so many fitness facilities
Totally.
popping up, coming up, down, whatever. And I think, in my opinion, like the ones that will be sustainable and last are the ones that like actually have those genuine connections with people because...
Or the business owner in the business. Yeah, that's another thing. I feel like with a lot of franchisees, some of them have bought it because it's a business investment, not because they actually plan on being in there day to day.
Yes, exactly. They don't really know.
Or they're
what
not
they're
even
doing.
into fitness.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, I'm cautious not to like talk badly of that.
Totally.
And even myself as a business owner, I've got business partners at 3 of the locations, and often I will walk in there and people don't know who I am, which I actually fucking love.
Yeah.
But I am also a Pilates instructor. I do actually love it, believe in it, and all of that. So I think, it's interesting.
Yeah, and maybe it just comes down to the longevity. And also, you can buy a gym or you can buy a Pilates studio and put fantastic coaches and managers in there, and it'll run exactly the same way if your managers and your coaches are invested in their clients and they have that passion. Yeah, so I think it's just...
I think also if you choose the right managers and coaches who are invested in your brand, so like you're still the heart and the soul of the brand. Well, that for me specifically is how I see it, as like I've got business partners and managers who are the face of like their locations, and they value the same things I value. And so they fit into that brand, and so then they can transfer that onto the clients.
It's about being like choosy with who you bring in. I've actually... On the flip side of that, I feel like you can also have, like, I know there's been multiple times in my career where I have gone away for a week and I've hired a coach and put them in there to run my sessions, and no one shows up.
I know. It can be so hard, like that transition as well. I found that with Infloat Cloundra.
Yeah.
Because obviously when I opened that, I was like the person who was running most of the classes. I had 2 contractors, and I was doing like all the sales. I was doing like everything, like I was running the whole business. And when I wouldn't be there, clients wouldn't be happy, and I'm like,
No.
I need a break too.
I need holidays too.
And like the only way I got out of it was because I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And people understand when you're pregnant that maybe you're going to be gone for a little bit. And then somehow we transitioned and made sure there was really great coaches who could like kind of do that. But I totally get that. It can be really hard when you've personally created that rapport with clients.
And they're so connected to you. It can be like scary for them if you're not there. I have literally just overcome this. Like Grace now runs my sessions. I was in Bali last week and she ran all my sessions. Everyone showed up as per usual. But I've definitely had times where I have outlaid and had a coach in there and they've just not wanted to. So
I've been one of those people. I'm like, oh well, I'm not going to get in trouble.
Taz isn't there, so it doesn't matter. So you have both sides for sure.
Yeah, you have to find a balance. With that as well. So tell me a little bit about your nutrition side of your business. I know you're super passionate about it.
I love nutrition. Hence why I studied it for 4 years. So nutrition is it's actually probably the main part of my company now. So I have clients that are face-to-face and clients that are online. I work more in the calorie macro space, just so that people are aware of energy in and energy out and how to balance that and what our macros are and what does protein do in our body and how can that change our composition, relating all the way back to that first point earlier. Or I also have busy mums, shift workers, all that sort of stuff, who just want a meal plan and they just want to know what to eat and when, make sure that it hits all the boxes. Is it hitting my fruit, my veg, my protein for my body? Is it getting micronutrients, all those sorts of things? And they just want to follow a plan. So there's either the education side of it, and that I feel like is more long term, like you do learn from a meal plan because you get to see the structure, potentially you got new recipes, you just have a general idea of what each meal should look like. But then in terms of tracking and spending that time learning your portions and having to pick the foods yourself, that's the one that's sustainable far into the future.
Yeah, totally. And what do you think is like the most common thing, that you, not issue, but like I guess that you see with new clients coming in? What's the most common thing that clients are doing wrong?
For women, protein is a huge thing. They just don't favor it. And I get that too. We're not huge portions of meat eat. Yeah, meat eat.
Meat eat. I like it.
Meat eaters. Protein can really fall short, but there's little tools, and there are some good powders and stuff out there these days that are convenient, and we can bump it back up, or focusing on increasing our whole foods. But so protein's probably the main one for women, and then under eating. We come from this potentially watching our mums, I think, because they come from that like heroin chic era, right?
Which I feel like is coming back in.
Oh, don't say that.
I
liked when it was like
Ozempic chic.
True. Ozempic is really coming in. But I do feel like we are more health centered these days, and strong, and like having, training physiques is definitely more popular or trending.
Yeah, for sure.
You see girls coming into the gym at like 15 now, and like they really know what they're doing. Or they have a PT. And I'm like, I couldn't afford a PT when I was 15.
But I think that people's priorities has changed as well. And like these mums who have these daughters are potentially like happy to pay for that. I mean, I know my mum paid for me to have a PT when I was 15 and stuff.
That's so brilliant.
Yeah. And that was because she had like weight problems and she wanted to like educate her daughters on all of that kind of stuff.
She wanted to stop that in generational inheritance.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that if we don't kind of combat that early, we have grown up watching our mums, have restrictions on not eating that or having low carb or
fad diets.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Like I just have a lot of girls come to me who are scared to build up their calories, or they're scared to eat more while they're training, and they feel like shit. They have no energy. Maybe their sleep's bad, their skin's poor. So yeah, just I suppose changing that narrative for them and showing them that they can eat and train and feel well.
Yeah. And do you do much work around like hormones?
Yes, I have done some work around hormones. I think as a coach, you need to learn where you outsource.
Yeah. So you just need to stay within your scope.
Exactly. Like I know the basics. I know how to train around a cycle. I know how you feel. I'm a female myself. I know to increase your energy around your cycle or the food that you're having in. But if someone is, really struggling to fall pregnant, or they got PCOS or endo and stuff like that to a severe degree, I'm going to refer you on to a dietitian who specializes in that space, because I have the basics and I'm a nutritionist and I have all the qualifications and experience myself, but I might not be the best person for you in those, more in-depth cases.
In those areas.
Yeah.
Okay, so skipping back to nutrition, I had a question for you. So we talk about fad diets. Obviously, I feel like a big diet that is popular at the moment, or maybe the last like 5 years. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I don't know. There's a lot.
I feel like keto.
Keto
/ carnivore.
I mean, I suppose they fall in the same space, like high fats, low carbohydrate. I will never bag one diet to the other. Do I think either of them are great for you long term, particularly carnivore? No. But essentially all fad diets are the same thing, right?
Yeah.
The removal of a food group or food groups results in a calorie deficit. That's why you lose weight. The thing is, we don't have to do any of this to create a calorie deficit. You just need to learn what that is and what that is for your body. So I just think if keto works for you and you feel good on keto, great. Yeah. Let's just make sure that it's health enabling. I don't feel great on keto. I love carbohydrates. I don't want to eat.
Why do we, if we're training, say we're training 3 times a week in the gym doing weights and, probably cross training, doing Pilates at least or whatever.
Yeah,
but
totally.
So we're training, we're like, training like 3 to 5 times a week. Why do we need carbs?
For energy. It's our body's energy fuel source.
So how does it work?
It's our primary fuel source. So carbohydrates are glycogen, which we use for energy in our body to facilitate our workouts. So that's why we also have, sometimes if you're more in depth in your training, you can start to work with macro timing. So that can be focusing your carbohydrates around your training, which athletes are going to do a lot. So they're going to make sure that they have a carbohydrate pre-workout. Might be 45 to 60 grams carbohydrates pre-workout. But if you're completely depleting your body of carbohydrates, you're just not going to feel great during your workouts because your body is eventually going to search for fats, but it's just not there. It's not ready to go. So that's why carbohydrates are good for us. They're everything. They're fruits, they're vegetables, they're whole grains, they're, your oats and your nuts and seeds and all those things that are great for our overall health. So totally removing them from a diet, just unless you have, a gluten intolerance, then I don't see the reason. But even
if you have a gluten intolerance, it doesn't mean you can't have fruits and veggies. And
exactly. It's just, your pastas and your rices and all that sort of your breads. But yeah, I just think it's deeply ingrained in female culture to steer away from carbohydrates when in fact they're the thing that makes us feel good and we don't need to be scared of them.
Yeah, totally. I think it's just like it's like that reduction of them or that elimination of them and then causes like an over eating of them.
Yeah, totally. The binge restrict cycle, right? And also carbohydrates hold water. So a lot of time people go low carb for, say they do it for a week, right? And they jump on the scale and they're like, oh, wow, I've cut carbs and I've lost 2 kilos this week. But, you actually haven't.
Yeah.
We've depleted our carbohydrate stores. We no longer have that water in our body. Potentially, we don't have as much fiber in our body either. So then the actual mass stools in our body is less. So we present lower on the scale, but that doesn't mean that we've lost body fat percentage. And the other thing that's linear to that is potentially your workouts have gone to shit because you're flat because you don't have carbohydrates. So it's not really counterintuitive because now your workouts have gone poor and you don't feel great. So it's like, what's the trade-off?
Yeah. And then it's not sustainable because the minute that you stop doing it, you're now not in a habit of like working out.
Yeah.
And then you're probably binging.
Yeah.
And so you're just going to put on that weight and more. So essentially fad diets, what they're doing is like, yes, they can help you lose weight, but just a short-term band-aid solution.
Exactly.
They're not really helping you. What's the word? Reconfigure?
With your recomposition.
Recomposition. They're not helping you recomposition your body. They're just helping you lose weight. And a lot of that weight's probably like water weight / muscle weight.
Yeah. I mean, if you're dropping, particularly as women, if you are dropping a large amount of weight in, a matter of 4 weeks and you're not prioritizing protein, potentially a lot of that is lean mass that you've lost. And that's hard to get back. So like slow and steady and preserving that and maintaining your protein to try, slow that down. Like that's where the golden ticket is.
Yeah, totally. Super interesting.
Abby's like post-baby, take note.
Oh yeah. I'll be back post-baby. What does happen with breastfeeding? So I remember when I was breastfeeding with Billy, a lot of people a lot of people lose a lot of weight when they're breastfeeding. That certainly wasn't me.
Yeah.
Which is
Depends on the
fine.
birth as well of the child.
Yeah.
Like what we were speaking about earlier, being induced, a vaginal birth and a C-section, like all those things actually do make a difference post-baby on how quickly your body, loses the weight or bounces back, and also genetically.
Yeah.
Things are different.
Yeah,
some
totally.
people look like they didn't have a baby 2 weeks later, and some people look like they just had birth 2 years later.
Yeah.
So everyone's different. And I think it's like, I'm segueing here, but I think it's good to just stay on your own journey and not compare yourself in that phase.
Yeah, totally.
What was your original question? Breastfeeding.
My question, I was going to ask, like, so when you tailor people's, say, meal plans or their training and their stuff postpartum, do you tailor that specifically to the woman, or is it like, is there kind of a formula because they're breastfeeding
Yeah, so there's
that they're exerting more energy?
Yes. So essentially, like, you wouldn't put someone who's breastfeeding in a severe calorie deficit, right? Because they are fueling themselves and the child. And there are certain nutrients that are really important for the baby to get. So I don't necessarily think that a deficit is a nice place or a safe place to be while you're breastfeeding.
Yeah.
It would be an area that I would enter post, like,
Breastfeeding.
post breastfeeding. But I would probably just more focus on your health, making sure you're eating well, probably at a maintenance or above, because you're still, there's extra energy going out, and focusing on your exercise, like getting back to training and feeling good.
And in a good routine, because
and that can come later. Like you just grew a child.
Yeah.
Now you're keeping it alive.
Just gave birth to it. Yeah.
Give yourself a break.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, love it. Okay, what would be 3 tips that you would give somebody who was wanting to start a business? So wanting to move from, they can either be they're wanting to move from, they're working as a PT and they want to open their own facility, or they're just wanting to move into the workforce as a PT or nutritionist.
So if you are just finished your PT course and you were going out into the world, you are unfortunately going to need social media. So get on top of that.
We love social media. I feel like people always bag social media, and it is hard work, but like also we are living in this age right now where it's like a free marketing tool.
Yep.
Like, we don't have to go put stickers on a bus.
No.
All we have to do is
hand
just
out
be on our
flyers.
phone and like think of funny shit to post.
Yeah.
And educational, and
But on the flip side of that, you're great at social media. I feel like you've obviously put in the time and the energy, but it can be overwhelming, and it can be, it's not my favorite thing to do. I'm always like, I don't think that looks very good. Why does theirs look so good? But just get out there.
Yeah.
Jump on social media.
It can be overwhelming, but if it is, maybe just get someone to help you, which is your next point by the sounds of it.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes. You could also get a mentor for social media, but have a mentor. Have someone who knows more than you or has been in the industry longer than you, and really, use that. When I first went into that gym at 2016, there was a really great coach in there and the gym owner, and I just would sit and just watch their sessions and just ask them. Get a PT yourself. Learn from them. Spend time on the gym floor talking to people. Learn how to talk to everyone. Don't niche too early. I know, like, a lot of people come in and they're like, I want to be an online coach now. But it's like, you need to spend that time actually seeing how people move, talking to them, knowing how to describe an exercise if they're not in front of you and you can't push and prong them in areas to get them in that position. How can I verbally tell them how to do that?
Yeah.
So that's if you're going into a 24-hour facility or a gym. And the other one was
if
as
you
a
were
business
looking,
owner.
transitioning from being in a gym to owning a facility.
Yeah, so not taking the jump too early. If you can, like, spend the time really building up your clients and having your loyal fans before you jump over. I feel like that would take a lot of stress off. And then you've already got that buzz and that community happening, so that it's going to attract more people into your facility. Like we said earlier, have your accountant, have your support system, because, it is a big jump and it is a big step to take in your career. And focusing on making sure that the connections in that gym are quality.
Yeah.
I once heard something that, I might butcher this, but if someone hasn't made a friend in your facility in the first 7 weeks or something like that, they won't stay past 10 or something like that. I probably fully, It's basically saying, like, connection is really important, and if they walk in every day and no one says hello to them and no one asks about them and they feel awkward about who they're going to train with every day, they're not going to stay. So make sure it's welcoming and everyone is friendly. And
that's actually a really good way to put it. I don't think you might have butchered the quote or whatever, but
I think I butchered the quote.
I feel like that underlying message is actually really strong.
Yeah, like, no one wants to walk in and feel uncomfortable every day. So, I think one of the main things that I'll always do is if we're running a social Saturday, I'll be like scanning the room prior to when they're like, all right, grab someone and warm up. Remember what it was like in school when you're like standing there and you're like, oh, no one's going to pick me.
Oh, I still feel like that when I like go to gyms or go to places and there's like that situation. Like I used to do Muay Thai, and then every time they were like, okay, grab a partner, and then I'd be the person who has to go up to the coach. I don't have anyone.
Yeah.
And I'd just feel like so awkward every time. And then it'd just be like me like training with the coach, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. And then I made some friends, and then it was like,
And then it's your favorite place in the world.
yeah, because then I was like, oh, I can't skip my training this morning because like that person's going to be there. We've made a plan.
Yeah.
And
they're going to message you, and then eventually it turns into like they go out for coffee, and then all of a sudden they're best friends.
They're friends without you even being involved.
Or they're dating. Who knows?
They're dating. Who knows?
But yeah, I think it's just like making sure that people feel comfortable and safe and supported, and like it's their safe space and they want to be there. Shouldn't be forced.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Great tips.
That's my lessons.
What about 3 tips for anyone starting on a nutrition journey?
Nutrition journey. So I think there's so much information out there. So if you have the means, get a coach, get a dietitian, get a nutritionist. I mean, Australia is great, right? Like we can get referrals from the doctors to have a dietitian subsidized. So get that early education rather than jumping between all of these fad diets, and be careful of who you're following as well, because we take on so much knowledge and we absorb so much that it can be a very confusing and overwhelming space. The basics have worked for a reason. They've been there for a long time for a reason. It's not fancy. It's not pills. It's not Ozempic. Like it's getting on top of those fundamental nutrition strategies, concepts from the very start, and just taking it slow. Like don't jump in head first. If it's 200 grams a week that you've lost, great. Times that by 12 months and you're a different person next year.
Totally.
So if you didn't lose 5 kilos this week, and someone on Instagram did, doesn't matter.
Yeah, totally. I think as well with just on your second point, Jake, just with the nutrition space, what I've noticed is that it's kind of in some ways similar to the Pilates space. It's like you can kind of get a qualification almost out of a cereal box. And so I think that your point about just being careful about who you follow and really like analysing like how following that person makes you feel, whether they're like a nutritionist or they're doing recipes or whether they are portraying like their body in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's like it's actually like, okay, you know, I spoke about social media and how much I love it, but like obviously it has this downside, and it's like you have to set boundaries of like what you're looking at.
Yeah. And if it doesn't make you feel good, then probably remove it.
Yeah.
I think that you're right. Like, especially in the nutrition space, I think that the PT and the coach education is a little bit more, and you do have to be qualified and you have to show that, right, before you get employed by a gym. Nutrition's not safeguarded like that.
Yeah.
Anyone can call themselves a nutritionist, whether they have a degree at university or not, or a nutrition coach. And potentially that was a 1-week module in their PT course. I've done the course. I know what's in it. And it's not a lot.
Yeah.
And if they're then writing you a meal plan that goes alongside with your training, but they don't have those like guidelines or that, you know, university degree experience of like actually making sure that you're hitting all the foundations for human health. Yeah. Just be a little bit cautious.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
it.
And I feel like being open to unlearning, like if you have done like a lot of like, you know, fad diets, or you've bought programs online, or you've done challenges and stuff with kind of people who maybe aren't as qualified. It's like being open to like unlearning things and getting a greater understanding of like exactly how the body works.
Yeah. And like if you have done a lot of fad diets and you have done a lot of generic meal plans that you've bought online, but yet you're still searching for the next one, like try find the lesson in that, right? Like there's a reason it didn't work. So let's not repeat the same pattern and let's try something new.
Yeah, totally.
Because they're called the fad for a reason.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you would like to add to our conversation today?
I don't think so.
I think we've covered everything.
We've gone.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been
fun.
Good chat. Learnt some things.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
We'll have Abby's revenge body after.
Oh yeah.
Post baby.
Who am I revenging? The baby?
What isn't it? The Kardashians?
No, it is revenge. I think Chloe does
revenge body. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's like post breakup, and I'm not planning on.
Okay, we're gonna go baby bounce back body.
Baby bounce back body. Still potentially toxic, but you know what? It's fine. We're just gonna get the best, strongest version of me.
Exactly. Healthy, strong mum.
Yes, love it. Yeah, there we go. Healthy, strong mum body, and then maybe you'll start a new niche.
Maybe.
You got a few pregnant people.
I do, yeah. But I feel like, there's a lot of great postnatal trainers out there. Mm-hmm. Friends, yourself, all that, then I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But am I the postnatal baby trainer? The be all and end all?
No.
No.
Love it.
That's okay.
Cool. We know where we are. Thanks, Taz.